What is Aish's role here in the White House?
Again, I think we represent so many people and so many voices that other people don't necessarily tap into. So when we walk in here, we have millions of Jews, American Jews, that we are walking in here on their behalf to dialogue and have that conversation. And that, you've enabled us to do that by creating, this social media behemoth and Aish.com and all these pieces, and it's really important.
I'm Jamie Geller, the CMO of Aish, and we are here with Rabbi Steven Burg, the CEO of Aish. We are at the White House. For me, this is a pinnacle of my career moment. For you, Rabbi Burg, it's a little bit of an everyday occurrence. You're coming for years representing Aish and the Jewish people here at the White House.
Yeah, first of all, I'm happy to be here with you because you're reminding me how excited we should be to walk in here.
Yes.
But look, there's such a special relationship between America and Israel and America and the Jewish people, and this was the place where freedom of religion was born. So whenever I walk in here, there is that sense of that there is some amazing destiny for the last 250 years of just the Jews being here in America.
Yeah, the importance, the grandeur. I do not take it. It's no small thing walking through this place, that sense of responsibility. When you walk in as a CEO of Aish, representing the Jewish people in the White House, how do you feel?
Look, I think there's a sense of responsibility. It's clear that the White House understands the breadth and scope of Aish. They understand what we do online. They understand that we are talking to Jews that perhaps no one else is talking to, unaffiliated, unconnected Jews. And there's a willingness to work with us to kind of on the messaging and to get out what's going on here and have that feedback come back to them to make sure that they're really governing and representing the people as a whole.
Yeah. Isn't it unbelievable to feel recognized when you walk through the White House and people know you and they know Aish? I mean, the feedback is, I feel like amazing walking next to you.
Yeah, I have seldom walked in a meeting where someone has not said, "Oh, Aish.com. When we need to know X, Y, and Z, we go to Aish.com." So Aish is really known everywhere I go around the world, and especially here in government, also in Washington.
You are the CEO of Aish, a global Jewish organization dedicated to spreading timeless Jewish wisdom. What are you so busy doing at the White House all the time?
First of all, Jewish wisdom applies to everyone and everything. We are a light unto the nations, and it's so important to be able, I can't tell you how many conversations I have with politicians in Washington, here in the White House and other places, where we talk about the Bible or we talk about the lessons. The Jews brought ethics and morality to the world. We really did. The Ten Commandments, and God decided to, He wanted man to not kill each other, to really live in peace. And so there's a common language there, and I think people appreciate that.
Speaking, you said you've had so many conversations. One of the things, the first time I actually heard you speak years ago at a big conference, you were telling stories about meeting with this politician and this dignitary. Give me some of the highlights of some of the people you've met and some of the stories that stand out.
There have been a lot of people over the years. Here at the White House, I think I've seen a lot of different presidencies. I think one of the more important meetings I've been involved in was with President Obama. And there were some stubbles out of the gate in terms of when he first started. They had an absolutely phenomenal Jewish liaison named Jared Bernstein, and Jared had basically convened all of us in the room to sit with President Obama and just really kind of talk very straightly and matter-of-factly with each other. And there was one point in the very beginning of the meeting where someone said to President Obama, we thanked him for having us there because during the Holocaust, the front gates of the White House were closed to the Jews. And I will never forget President Obama. He looked at us and he said, 80 years ago, neither of us would have been allowed in here. And there was that commonality between the African American community and Jewish community to say things have changed a lot and we have to work together. And that was, to me, a very, very powerful moment being in there. And then we went into the Oval Office with him. And it was, I'll tell you something cute about that. We went to the Oval Office and Jared Bernstein, who's a Jewish liaison, is absolutely terrific guy. We're gathering in the Oval Office for a picture, and I had asked him before if we could daven mincha in the Roosevelt room, right? And he said, no, they need the room. There's not a lot of rooms, We walk into the Oval Office, into Obama's Oval Office, and we're gathering for a picture, and I look at Jared. He's right across from me. I look across the room, I go, Jared, can we daven here? He's like, no, you can't make a minion in the Oval Office.
Well, maybe
it was very
one
cute.
day.
We davened right outside when we went out, but it was, I have davened in the White House more times than I can count, and it's always special.
So unbelievable. Okay, you spoke about the Obama administration. Let's go through some of the other administrations. So when did you first start coming to the White House?
I
was
really,
president?
in terms of my career, really it started towards the end of Clinton and really kind of the whole George W. Bush. And of course, that was coming off the heels of 9/11.
Yes.
So, you talk about where he started his presidency, where it wound up going was very, very different. And he was a very, very close friend to the Jews. He was a person very close to God. And there was one meeting that the OU, the Orthodox Union I had been with at the time, was having with him in the Oval Office. And, he had this world leader come in, that world leader come in, and someone jokingly said, like, how do you get through the day? And he said, God. And it's very interesting, I find, to find at that level when people, really recognize the Almighty gives them that strength. And I think he was someone particularly close to the faith community, which was fairly interesting.
Very much so. Okay, so Bush, Obama, and then?
Well, President Trump, I will tell you, I was here for the signing of the Abraham Accords. And I've been, chills, right? Because I've been to a lot of things here, and being there for that signing, it was complicated, it was COVID, everything was going on. And in the middle of everything, they just, we sit and we make peace with the UAE, with Bahrain, and
things you thought you'd never see,
never,
not in your lifetime, not in your kids' lifetime.
Never, and I had the chance to go to Bahrain, I had the chance to go to Saudi Arabia and talk to a lot of the people there, and these dialogues that no one thought, would ever happen are happening. And I think it could not have happened without America and without the White House. I think people understand that peace with Bahrain and with UAE and some of the other countries could not have happened without some heroic people here in the White House.
We've also met a lot of friends of Aish here in the White House, new friends. At the Trump Hanukkah party, we have two new partners for Aish, people who've recognized us. Tell me about some of those meetings of others that you've met while here.
I mean, we keep talking about this, but at every Hanukkah party I go to, and I've been very blessed to go to since for many, many years at different parties, you're sitting with a wide swath of the Jewish community. Yeah. And like I said, just talking about Aish and our role and our mission, there's no one that doesn't understand it. There's no one that doesn't really rally behind. They value it, because the bottom line is a Jew without education, without literacy, without knowing where they came from, right? It's hard to rally around that, and so it's so important. People, I think, really across the government really understand that.
Yes. Okay, and now the Biden administration. Here we are again.
Here we are again. Shelley Greenspan is the Jewish liaison. She's absolutely terrific. We love her. She's been amazing. We've had a lot of meetings and conversations with her. And I think for the Biden administration, there were some good relationships there. And then October 7th happened, and the entire world changed. And I think we were Israel and the Jewish people that was so traumatized, the largest massacre of Jews since the Holocaust, needed a friend. And I think that this administration has done a lot in helping Israel and being there and sending another carrier group, into the oceans around and the seas around Iran to basically say we're going to stand by Israel. And I think a lot of important things have happened. And look, every administration I've been blessed to interact with, I really feel on some level they've always felt that Israel was a fellow democracy. Again, some maybe more, some maybe less.
Correct.
But all of them have withstood the test of time of Israel and America working together.
What are you looking for from the White House post-October 7th? You come in, you're having many meetings with liaisons, ambassadors, different dignitaries here. What are you looking for?
In some ways, it's the same thing it was pre-October 7th, meaning they always had our back in the UN. On the world stage, when you have these horrific countries like Iran and all these crazy people trying to condemn Israel, and October 7th, our community was in shock. Why? Because on October 8th, they started denying the atrocities. And I think we're looking very much here, and I'm not going to get into the military, that's really for the state of Israel to deal with them on. But for us, it is to have our back that, yes, there were atrocities. Terrible things happened to women, the kidnapping, all these things, to really make the world stand up and understand and get rid of the anti-Semitism and say, call it for what it is. It was murder, it was rape, it was kidnapping. And I think the folks that I have dealt with in the White House and blessed to deal with understand that, and they've been pretty passionate about making that case.
You've developed a lot of relationships here, whether it's secretaries of state, secretary of treasury, vice presidents who have come from the White House and Washington to Aish, to the Dan Family Aish World Center.
Yeah,
We've hosted
that was
yes.
that was pretty amazing. I mean, we had Mike Pence came to Aish, and that was, that kind of security was fairly
Yes.
intense. It was amazing. Very, very nice man. Very pro-Israel. Perhaps my favorite moment though was when Secretary of Treasury Mnuchin came.
Yes.
Because he came and there's a lot of build up to it, and you have 30 seconds to take a picture, and he was in Aish for a meeting. The embassy had set it up to meet with different tech companies. And he walks in to take a quick picture, and he's got to go to the meeting with tech companies, and he spots the Temple Mount. He spots Har Bayis, and he walks right out there, takes out his phone, starts taking pictures.
It's like all you and I.
Exactly, starts taking pictures. And then I was there with Rabbi Goldvich, and the two of us got into a 20-minute conversation about the first temple, second temple, third temple, about where it was, what was going on. We literally studied Torah, right? Studied Jewish wisdom about the temple with the Secretary of Treasury for 20 minutes. His people were going crazy. Like, we got to go, a meeting and all that. He's like, this is my heritage, and I want to absorb it. And it was a very moving moment for me, because to show that any Jew in the world, here was a Secretary of Treasury, he's running the money for one of the most, the largest, most important countries in the world, and his heritage meant so much that he had to take the time out to delve into it.
It was so special to me. I remember you telling me that story, and I just had the chills. That's Aish at work.
Very much so.
Right.
Very much so.
What is Aish's role here in the White House?
Again, I think we represent so many people and so many voices that other people don't necessarily tap into. I'll toss it back at you, because you run social media for us, and you understand that there are millions of people connected to Aish that are not connected to Jewish organizations. Yes. So you have so many Jewish organizations representing certain important parts of the Jewish people. Aish represents people that are not identifying with synagogues or temples or the Jewish people,
and they need
haven't been this, and they need a voice. So when we walk in here, we have millions of Jews, American Jews, that we are walking in here on their behalf to dialogue and have that conversation. And that, you've enabled us to do that by creating, this social media behemoth and Aish.com and all these pieces, and it's really important.
What do you say on behalf of those people? What are your messages to the White House on behalf of the Jewish people?
Look, the messages are very much about who we are as a people of the book, what we believe about morality, ethics in the world. We're dedicated Americans, that people need to understand that the Jewish people, really so much of American, the founding fathers almost used Hebrew as their language. They were debating, and then they stuck with English in the end, but they were men of the book. And since early times, the Jews have been incredibly supportive of this country. We love this country. We love America. I very much grew up as an American, and there's so much a part of me that looks back at world history and says, my God, a bunch of men and women got together and said, we need freedom of religion, freedom from oppression, no more kings, no more queens. We're going to allow people to be human beings, and it evolved through the Civil War and civil rights, and this has been a great experiment in the world stage. And I think as a Jew, there's nothing more touching than to be dedicated to America.
Yeah, it's beautiful. As the CEO of Aish, a global Jewish educational nonprofit with a $25 million operating budget, how critical is your work with politics, with regard to politics, both in the White House and both in Israel?
I think Aish tries to be careful. We're not an advocacy group per se. We don't take sides, on the different sides of the aisle, so to speak. We're really about education. We want people to understand Jewish wisdom. We want people to have a connection to the Almighty. We want people to understand that when you have Jewish wisdom, it affects the lens through which you view the world. And like I said before, so many of my conversations with politicians revolve around the Bible.
Yeah.
We'll talk about King David, and we'll talk about King Solomon. We'll talk about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and we'll talk about Moses. And Moses, basically went in and freed the slaves. That was very, very powerful. And we talk about Jared Bernstein, who was a Jewish liaison. He attended President Obama's Seder. And I said, how was the Seder? He's like, well, everyone's kind of talking aside. The president's trying to get everyone's attention to run the Seder. It's like, just like at home. He said, then there's one point where the President Obama read the Emancipation Proclamation at the table.
So interesting.
And, you're listening to the first African American president read the Emancipation Proclamation at a Jewish Seder about how we were saved from slavery, there are powerful commonalities that we need to focus on for all communities. And I think that power comes through the White House. You can really see that building of bridges here in this building.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, you said you speak about the Bible, you speak about God, you speak about Jewish wisdom in all of your meetings with all the politicians wherever you are in the world. Do you think that that's part of having them consider Jewish wisdom in their decision making and their policy making, or it's just something that we do anyway as Jews, so you do that?
No, I think it has to be a prism through which you look at the world, morality and ethics. And look at the world with October 7th, right? There was rape and murder that happened, and so many people deny it and can't come to terms with it. But a moral and ethical person looks at it and says, this is wrong.
Yes.
Just black and white wrong. And I think that the Jewish wisdom in the Bible, God gave that gift to us. Now, there are people out there who are evil people. There's evil in the world, and they do bad things, they do evil things. And then there's really good people, and I think that it helps you get to the goodness. And so, like I said, I interacted with so many politicians that the Bible is a part of their life, and godliness is a part of their life. And it's always very moving to me that kind of propels them forward.
Mm-hmm. We've had more governors, more senators, more congressmen, more mayors than I can even count from both sides of the aisle come to visit us at Aish. Sure. Are those conversations the same that you have here in the White House? Are they also the same?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, Aish is who we are. We are the people of the book. We're the people that believe that the Almighty's wisdom is important. And in every conversation that I have with people, we bring that forward and we talk about different pieces of that wisdom in the conversation and how that affects. And so the answer is yes, absolutely. We don't have a conversation without that. And you would not believe how receptive everyone is receptive. I also have to say at Aish, when they come to Aish and we're sitting at the Dan Family Aish World Center, we're on the roof and you're taking Temple Mount, people are very moved. Yes. Many times the tears. People get very emotional there. Or if they go to the Hall of Notes and they write a note to put in the Western Wall, people break down. You break down barriers. Here you are. This is where God is. All religions of the world believe that this is where God is. And you're here. And now you have a chance to talk to him. You have a chance to write a note to him. You have a chance to communicate with him. That is one of the most moving experiences that people have.
I have a personal question. You speak to world leaders, policymakers, dignitaries, decision makers. Are you ever intimidated?
That's a good question. Look, I think that the bottom line is if a person has the perspective that we're all God's children, we're all equal in God's eyes. So it's not about being intimidated. You understand that this person has the ability to do certain things on a much larger scale. I don't want it to sound arrogant when I say I'm not intimidated. I'm not intimidated because I understand that this is a really good person, and beneath it all, they have the same things going on that we all do. They have the same feelings. So, I would give this recommendation to anyone. Like, approach people, even if you think someone's far from you, a leader, they're important. Go talk to them and figure out how you can advocate and how you could do great things in your life and how you could be a leader. Learn from them. So, I think that the only being in the world that intimidates me is God, the Almighty, and the rest of us are all on an even, I think, plane.
Okay. We're out of time. Is there any last thing that you want that we didn't touch on that I should ask?
Look, I think the most important thing here is that I was able to bring Jamie Geller to the White House. I have to thank you because I've been here so many times over the years. I've forgotten what that euphoria is like.
It is
when you walk
sheer joy and excitement. Truly, Rabbi Burg.
Yeah,
this is a moment.
This has been a great visit with you. I'm ecstatic that you got to be here. And,
you have been promising me this, by the way,
have been.
Since for 3 years.
I have been.
3 years. So this is the moment.
And here
what's
we
next?
are. So what's next? Next we're going to rebuild the temple and bring everyone over there.
Amen.